Hi guys, this is Buska. Welcome back to another video. This is another video that I've also wanted to do for top 10 songs because it's another one of my favorite bands. I'll say the reason why I'm also doing this. But today for top 10 songs, in the last episode we did top 10 songs for the Beatles, and for our third episode of the series, we're going to be doing top 10 songs for Rush, one of the best power trios of all time. All three of the musicians are virtuosos. One of them, Neil Peart, unfortunately left us last year due to brain cancer that he had been privately battling, and I made a tribute video to him last year, the day they announced he passed away. And it's still shocking for us, and it was a shocking day for us. But one main reason why I wanted to do this is because for those of you who are Rush fans, and also Rush is one of my favorite bands of all time. I'd say they're in my top three, behind the Beatles and Pink Floyd. They'd probably be number three for me. I just love Rush. I love their music. I love how progressive they are, and I love the 80s synth stuff. This list wasn't terribly difficult. Kind of like the Beatles one. I will say this list was a little more difficult than the Beatles one, but I think this list was a little easier than the Beatles one. I'm sorry, a little, well, it was easy. It was easy like the Beatles one, but I think this one was a little difficult, or a little more difficult than the Beatles. I can't think of what I'm trying to say. Anyway, one reason why I wanted to do this show is because if you're a fan of Rush, if you know the band members, you know that earlier this month, well, it was a couple days ago actually, Geddy Lee, the bassist and lead singer and keyboard player of the band, his mother, Mary Weinrib, passed away at the age of 95, a few weeks before her 96th birthday. So this is a tribute to her because she'd been supporting the band ever since they started. And if you know the band, if you know Rush, if you've been following their story, you know that Geddy Lee's parents were Holocaust survivors. They had to go through some horrible hell and some unfortunate tragedies and travesties that they experienced, and they were forced to, and they didn't want to do it. They didn't want to go through that hell, obviously, and it's just a horrible experience for them. And Geddy's father passed away when he was really young, but unfortunately, a couple days ago, Mary Weinrib, Geddy Lee's mother, passed away. It's weird because Dave Grohl had his series with his mom, Virginia Hamlin Grohl. They did it was a show called From Cradle to Stage. I recommend it if you haven't seen it. And he had Geddy and his mom on. I assume this was shot before COVID, and I wonder if it must have been shot before Neil Peart passed away, but yeah, it's really sad to see that. And not only is it sad that, not only is it sad for Geddy and his family, but it's also sad seeing that there are the Holocaust survivors, or it's less Holocaust survivors lately, because this was in the 40s. This was a long time ago, and most of them were little kids when this happened, unfortunately. So my sincerest condolences go to Geddy and his family during this, and she will be missed. And yeah, it's really sad that she left us, because she was pretty funny too. She had a good spirit, and even with that dark past that she had, she still had what's the word I'm looking for? She had I guess a bright I don't know. She was just a very happy person, and it's a shame that she left us. So Mary, rest in peace. So we're gonna be doing top 10 songs for us. This is a tribute to Geddy's mom, Mary, and also, even though it's been a year and a half later, this may as well also be a tribute to the greatness of Neil Peart. One of my favorite drummers of all time. He's one of my biggest influences of all time, because I mentioned before I'm a drummer, and I have often said that Neil Peart was one of the greatest drummers of all time. He's easily a top 5 for me, maybe even top 3. I don't know. He's definitely up there because his drumming style was just so good, and he's missed to this day. So And like I mentioned before, this list was not terribly difficult, but it was more difficult than the Beatles one that I did yesterday. So my list is mainly around 2112 all the way to Moving Pictures because that's my favorite era of Rush. I love all eras of Rush. It's funny. There's not when I did my Rush videos a couple years ago. Um, my opinions and looking back on those videos, my opinions have changed. I will say I like every Rush album. I don't think there's a bad one. Some more than others, obviously, but we're going to talk specifically about the songs. So yeah, my list is mainly 70s and early 80s picks. So this is how it's going to go. So coming in at number 10, we're going to go from 10 to 1. So coming in at number 10 off of their self-titled debut album, a great debut album. I love this song a lot. It had to make my top 10 because I've always loved it. It's a song that really got them going. Although I think that Fly By Night, the album Fly By Night, really got them going. And then Until Caress of Steel, which almost killed their career. But my number 10 is the closer track off of their debut album, and that's Working Man. Working Man is great. The first album isn't progressive; it's more heavy. And I know people classify the first three Rush albums as heavy, kind of like Zeppelin influence. I can kind of see that, to be honest, but it's very heavy, and at times even heavy metal. Heavy metal is already a thing around this time, early '70s, early mid '70s, and Working Man is a great riff from Alex Lifeson, and Alex Lifeson is one of the most underrated guitarists of all time. He's another favorite of mine, and Geddy's vocals are great. The lyrics are great, and John Rutsey, he's another great drummer. Obviously, if he didn't leave, what would happen? We wouldn't have gotten Neil Peart. That would have been that honestly would have been a travesty. Don't get me wrong, John does play great on this first album, but I mean, it would be really different not getting to see Neil. So, and I love the jam in Working Man. I think that's great. I think that's great playing from all three of them. Great guitar from Alex, and the bass line in the song is great too. Geddy's is one of the best bass players of all time, and it closes the album perfectly, I think, and it's a really great debut album, and you can kind of see them just a young band, and they would develop even better later on. So coming in at number 10 for me is Working Man off of the self-titled debut album. Coming in at number 9 off of Permanent Waves, which is another phenomenal, fantastic album from them. That album really signaled. They still had prog on that album, but that really signaled them into their the more 80s synth pop, if you will. It holds half. I would say it's half prog and half synth oriented. Same thing with Moving Pictures. And then when we hit Signals, that's where they're really indulged into the 80s synth pop that we know from Rush, and still had a little bit of prog, but more synth, more 80s synth. But my number 9, this has always been my favorite song off this album. And I feel bad that's the only song from this album that made my top 10 because I love the entire album. But my number 9 is the closer track, Natural Science. Natural Science, and these guys have ended albums fantastically, I think. This is hands down one of their best album closers, in my opinion. And there's another one that we'll talk about later, but Natural Science is just great. I love Geddy's vocals, and it's separate. It's combined into 3 parts. And the first part is an acoustic guitar and Geddy singing, and then after that you get a guitar riff from Alex Lifeson, and then you get into a more fast-paced. Well, it's not really fast. I guess a medium paced tempo, and then great lyrics. Neil Peart was a phenomenal lyricist, and the band plays really great on that. My favorite part is where they get into the third section of the song, where they get a great guitar riff from Alex Lifeson, and great vocals from Geddy. and great drum fills from Neil Peart. He was really, he did not disappoint on really any track. He was phenomenal on almost all of them. With the exception of the first album because he didn't join the band yet. But yeah, Natural Science has always been my favorite. I love the scientific sounds in the throughout the song. I think that's really creative. And a great way to end a perfect album. For me, Permanent Waves is just perfect from top to bottom. It's easily in my it's in my top five favorite Rush albums, without a doubt. But yeah, Natural Science coming in at number 9 for me is Natural Science off of Permanent Waves. Coming in at number 8 off of the next album, Moving Pictures. Not only my favorite album from them, but it's one of my favorite albums of all time. I remember doing my top 100 favorite albums last year. I did a premiere for that last year, and it made my top 5, and I knew it was going to make my top 5 because I think it's a perfect album from start to finish. Side 1 of that whole thing, whether I know we've all heard side 1 to death, but it's just perfect nonetheless. And there's a couple moving pictures tracks on my list. I could have included the entire album on there because I loved it a lot, but I didn't want to do that because I wanted to include more tracks that I love. But my number 8, it's kind of it's another one of those. It's another commercial track for them, and great lyrics from Neil on the song. And I'm talking about the side 1 closer, Limelight. It starts on the side 1 of Moving Pictures, maybe for my money the greatest side of music for any vinyl record. Side 2 is as good, I think. I think it's even more underrated, but I think side 1 is just one of the best sides of music, along with side 1 of Boston's debut, because that's great. There's a lot, but I think, and I got a notification. I never learned my lesson. I need to turn off notifications when I'm recording. Anyway, that's something else. But my number 8 is Limelight, and this is a song that Neil this really describes Neil's personality. It describes what he was going through and kind of what he went through throughout their entire career. Neil was always a private guy, and he wasn't huge on public gatherings, although he did admire the fans, and he was glad that there were a lot of fans that loved Rush, and I remember watching the documentary, the Rush Beyond the Light stage, and Rush fans, I don't remember who described it, but someone said Rush fans are like NASCAR fans. They go to every concert, and there were a couple people. I think there was one guy who said, I had my 100th show in Stockholm, Sweden." It shows you how dedicated these people, and that guy was from Cleveland, Ohio, I think, or something like that. It shows you how devoted Rush fans are. I unfortunately never got to see him in concert, and unfortunately never will, because I think Alex Lifeson just recently said there's no way Rush is ever going to exist again, and that's understandable. But Limelight's a perfect song. I love the guitar riff in the beginning from Alex Lifeson. It's a great guitar riff. Geddy's vocals are great. Neil's drumming is fantastic as usual. And I love the guitar solo from Alex also. I think it's one of his best. Alex Lifeson had a lot of great guitar solos, and and like I mentioned before, one of the most underrated guitarists of all time, I think. And I don't think he got the credit he deserves, but I think he's one of the top best, if you're asking me. But he does a great solo in Limelight, and many more to come. But yeah, Limelight from top to bottom is such a perfect song. It may get quite a bit of airplay, but it's still great nonetheless. So coming in at number 8 for me is Limelight off of Moving Pictures. Coming in at number 7 off of A Farewell to Kings, another gem, another fantastic album. This is a song that I always really liked. I really liked. If you had asked me a couple of years ago, this song would not make my top 10. Why? I have no idea, honestly, but I always really liked it, and listening to it a lot and really getting more into prog over the years, this song has risen up a lot. And you know what? It may even climb higher because this song is just perfect. It's a great epic, and I love everything about it. And my number 7 is Xanadu. I love and the video for that's great too. Even though it's them playing live, it's just really cool. I love, and especially on this album and Hemispheres, like I always group those together. Um, Neil Peart had he used a lot of percussive instruments. He used a lot of percussion. He used chimes behind him. He used wind chimes, which would be right next to him. He used tempo blocks. He used a xylophone, vibes. And even in the '80s, he still kind of did that stuff. Not as proactive in the '70s, but he still used it frequently in the '80s. And Xanadu, I think, is probably, if you're going to ask me, probably their most experimental song, and by experimental, I mean maybe most progressive. I think A Farewell to Kings, when you think about it, maybe that and Hemisphere is probably their most prog-oriented albums. And 2112 kind of started their prog sensibilities, and then that took off. But it took off from there, and yeah, Xanadu, I really like the guitar riff in the beginning. I love the drum fills from Neil Peart. I love Geddy's vocals, and I love the random changes in the song, too. It kind of surprises you every time. And I love the drum fills. Excuse me. I love... I don't know how that happened. I love... I probably should have drank water before this. Anyway, I love the drum fills throughout the entire song. I think it's great. And like I mentioned, the song changes on you, and in a good way, in a very progressive way. And I love, first of all, if we were talking about the guitar solo on Limelight, the guitar solo in Xanadu is phenomenal. Okay, it is incredible. I think that's one of the Alex Lifeson's best guitar solos of all time, and he has a lot, obviously, because he's a virtuoso. But I think that I just think the guitar solo is great, and I love how the song ends. More drum fills, double bass drum at the end. It's really great. So coming in at number 7 for me is Xanadu off of A Farewell to Kings, another album I love from a song I love from an album I love. Coming in at number 6, we're gonna go back to Moving Pictures. No surprise there. This song, I honestly debated ranking this certain song higher. I love this song. Don't get me wrong; it's great. Out of all, it's a song that we've all heard a lot, but nonetheless, it's a great song. It's the first song I ever heard from this band, and it got me hooked ever since. For Moving Pictures, Tom Sawyer. Again, it's a song we've heard a million times, but regardless, it's just a great song. That iconic synth riff from Geddy, and Geddy's vocals are great too. And I know there are a couple people that can't get into Rush just because of Geddy's voice. That's understandable. Geddy's voice isn't for everyone. I always really liked his vocals, whether it would be the high stuff in the high pitched vocals in the early part of their career, or in the the latter half of their career, where he's gotten older and his voice, he doesn't want to hit high notes because it might not be easy for him. But I always really liked his vocals. But Tom Sawyer, nonetheless, it's a great song, and it opens one of the greatest albums of all time, opening Moving Pictures. And it's an anthem, I would say. Well, an anthem for Canada, probably, for Canadians. I'm not Canadian, but you understand. And the guitar solo from Alex Lifeson is great. The drum fills from Neil, probably my favorite drum fill section of all time, at least in the top 5, but or top 3, maybe even top 2. But it's just great, and I love the synth throughout the song is great. And again, this is signaling the reference to their next album, but this is signaling to their 80s synth career, part of their career, and that would incorporate in their music. And Tom Sawyer, again, It's a song we've heard a lot, a million times. Out of all the Rush songs that gets most airplay, that's easily the one that gets airplay. Although Spirit of Radio does get some frequent airplay and maybe closer to the heart. But Tom Sawyer, nonetheless, is a great song. It's a classic song. I'm honestly not tired of it. I mean, I try to avoid the radio, to be honest, because I don't want to, overplay. I don't want to hear songs too many times, and I might feel burnt out on them. But Tom Sawyer, nonetheless, for me, is a great song. So, and that comes in at number 6 for me. We're down to the top 5. Coming in at number 5, off of another early album for them, the Fly By Night album. Of course, John Rutsey leaves due to his diabetic problems that he had, and this is when Neil Peart joined the band, and it all took off from there for me. And like I mentioned before, talking about their debut and how great of a debut album that is, for me, Fly By Night really took them off, and I love that album a lot. And I'm going to go with the title track as my number 5. I always love the title track to Fly By Night. I love that. One reason why I love that, I love Geddy's vocals in the song. That's one of my favorite vocal performances from him. I love his bass in the song. I love the guitar riff in the song. The guitar solo is great. It's short but sweet, but it's great. And Neil's drumming throughout the song is great. And this is him showing you how great of a drummer he is, because he was, like I mentioned, one of the greatest, and he's missed to this day. He's one of my favorites, and yeah, he is missed to this day. So, yeah, and again, when I think of his best performances, that's one of them. But he has a lot of great performances, obviously. But coming in at number 5 for me is the title track to their sophomore album, Fly By Night. Coming in at number 4, from A Farewell to Kings, my favorite track off of there. And it's a song I mentioned when we were talking about airplay, Closer to the Heart. Well, I honestly don't hear a lot of Rush on the radio. If I have, I probably heard Tom Sawyer or Limelight on the radio, and that might have been it. Maybe Spirit of Radio. I haven't really heard Closer to the Heart on there, but this is kind of them signaling. Well, I keep using the word signaling. This is them directing their way of, I guess, commercial ease or something like that, because they have a lot of they had quite a bit of popular songs in the 80s, but yeah, Closer to the Heart, probably their popular song of the 70s, although it's a short song. Geddy's vocals are great. I love the chimes from Neil, and the guitar solo is great, and after the guitar solo, Geddy's bass is just great. It's a perfect song for me. So coming in at number 4 for me is Closer to the Heart off of Farewell to Kings. Speaking of great guitar solos, coming in at number 3, this is another perfect example of a perfect song. And we were talking about, when I talked about Natural Science, how great of an album closer that is. How great of an album closer this is. We're going to go to Hemispheres album, which is another favorite of mine. That's one of my favorite albums from them. I'd say that's in the top 2 or 3, easily top 3. And Rush, they didn't do a lot of instrumentals, but when they did instrumentals, they did it great, I think. And I think a lot of people would agree, a lot of Rush fans would agree with me on that. And my number 3, you know what I'm talking about, La Villa Strangiato. One of the most complex songs of music history. Probably along with The Dance of Eternity from Dream Theater, and maybe I'll do a Dream Theater show one day. They are one of my favorite bands of all time also, and Rush inspired them also. But anyway, La Villa Strangiato, I mean, first of all, it's a 12-part song with some of the most... I love the dynamics of the song. It starts off really quiet with Spanish flamenco guitar influence from Alex Lifeson, and then it goes into this mystical, just kick back, feel good music, and great guitar riff, and it feels like you're about to, go to sleep. But then you hear Neil Peart on the hi hat, and then the bass drum, and then he's off to town working, and then you hear Geddy Lee's phenomenal bass in the song. And this is for you non-Rush fans. If you can't get past Geddy Lee's voice, but if you want to hear their music, listen to La Villa Strangiato, because there's no vocals. Okay, it's just instrumental. Listen to that if you haven't. Trust me, you're gonna love it. It's phenomenal, and especially if you love prog. And this song, after that, it goes into the iconic riff of the song, and then phenomenal drum fills from Neil Peart. And when we get to that guitar solo, chills up my spine, chills on my arms, chills everywhere, and it's just so moody. It's just one of the greatest guitar solos ever. That's probably my favorite Alex Lifeson guitar solo. Like I mentioned before, he's had a lot of great ones, but the one in La Villa Strangiato specifically may be my favorite. And I really, that's one of my favorite guitar solos of all time. I love that, absolutely, and it's just really great. All right, I'm gonna overhype on that, so I better move on. But yeah, the song from start to finish is great. I love every single section. I love the part where and I love their kind of rendition of Raymond Scott's Powerhouse. That part of Powerhouse was played in cartoons. You'll know it when you hear it. And there's this one part where it's at a slower tempo, and it sounds almost heavy. Probably the heaviest part. Probably the heaviest thing Rush ever made at that part, where they get into a heavy riff. It's really heavy, and heavy for a prog band too. But and of course we now know a genre is progressive metal. But anyway, yeah, La Villa Strangiato, I've spoken my piece on it. It's beautiful. It's a perfect creation in my opinion, and it could rank higher maybe, but for now it needs to be in the top 5 or the top 3 in this case for me, because I love it so much. So coming in at number 3 for me is La Villa Strangiato from Hemispheres. I also will mention these top 3 are really close. So coming in at number 2, this is the song and the album that really saved them from Caress of Steel, and it really signified them as progressive rock. And it's the opening track to, for my money, their album where, like I mentioned, my favorite album of their early part of their career, before 2112 is Fly By Night. I said it took off from there, but, and Caress of Steel, I honestly really like Caress of Steel. I think it's underrated, gets overlooked, but that album was kind of a step down for me from Fly By Night, although I still like it a lot. And then that album almost killed their career, but they went to 2112, and my number 2 is the title track to 2112. I mean, first of all, that synthesizer opening is just really cool, and I love the guitar riff in the song. I love the when they after that first part of that section, they get into this great riff. I love Neil's drumming. Alex's guitar throughout the song is great, and just everything about the song. And and what's funny, I looked at the duration of the song. It's not 21 minutes and 12 seconds. That's such a letdown or a missed opportunity. But anyway, they probably didn't want to get too indulgent. But 2112 is just one of the best progressive epics of all time. When you think of, progressive rock in general, that is easily one of the best epic length compositions of progressive rock of all time from any progressive band, in my opinion, and in most people's opinion. You can say Supper's Ready from Genesis, Supper's Ready from Genesis, Close to the Edge from Yes. You can also include Awaken and The Gates of Delirium from Yes. You can include Carnival 9 from Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Tarkus from Emerson, Lake and Palmer. You can include a lot. 2112 belongs there, in my opinion. I think, and Hemispheres too. That's an epic. I think 2112 is really what got them, really what made them survive. Because if 21 and if Caress of Steel didn't happen, what would happen to 2112? Kind of like if Permanent Waves didn't happen, what would happen to Moving Pictures? I think Geddy even described it like that. But Yeah, coming in at number 2 is 2112 for me. The entire song is perfect. I love Neil, the ending with Neil saying, "Attention, all planets of the Solar Federation. We have assumed control." I really like that a lot. So coming in at number 2 for me is 2112, the title track to the album of the same name. And coming in at number 1, it's been my favorite Rush song for quite a bit, quite a long time. And again, going back to how great of an instrumental La Villa Strangiato is, you know, YYZ. Well, I already spoiled it. That's my number 1. I didn't. I wanted to build up to my number 1, but that's my number 1. YYZ from Moving Pictures is my number 1. But but what I was gonna say, I spoiled it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The cat's out of the bag. La Villa Strangiato is great and as complex as an instrumental it is. I gotta rank YYZ just a little bit higher, and literally nothing separates them. I have to rank YYZ a little bit higher just because it's more iconic, I would think, and it's off the side 1. Almost every song from side 1 of Moving Pictures made my top 10 with the exception of 1, and we'll get to honorable mentions. I have a lengthy list of honorable mentions, but YYZ, I love the how songs in 5/4 time. It's in Morse code with the letters YYZ from the inspiration of the Toronto International Airport. And I love the guitar riff from Alex Lifeson, a great guitar solo from him. I love the synths, and I love the bass fills. I love the drum fills. Just it's a perfect song from top to bottom. So coming in at number 1 for me, my favorite Rush song of all time is YYZ from Moving Pictures. I'll try not to let the cat out of the bag for future top 10 songs videos, but here's my list. I hope you got. Let me know what your favorite Rush songs are in the comments below, and I'll show it later at the end after I go through honorable mentions. And I have a lengthy list of honorable mentions, and I'm not going to show you my honorable mentions list because that would take too long, and the video is already kind of going long. Not as long as my Beatles video, because that was really long, because they are my favorite band of all time, and I have a lot to say. However, Rush is one of my favorite bands of all time, so I will have a lot to say, so I'll try to go fast. I'll try to go fast with these videos anyway. I talk too much. It's a problem I have. I can't really help myself. But anyway, for honorable mentions, so from their self-titled debut album from Rush, Finding My Way, that's a great song. And once again, I tried not to include every song from every album, although there's a couple of there's a couple exceptions where I will do that, just because I would feel bad disincluding or discluding or excluding every songs. That's the word I'm looking for. Excluding songs from them. I would feel bad for that. So I tried my best not to do that, but hey, it happens. So from their debut album, Finding My Way, it's a great kickoff track. Take a Friend. Take a Friend's a really underrated song. I like that a lot. What You're Doing is a great song. I love how heavy that is. I love the heavy riff in that song. And In the Mood is another great song. The lyrics are kind of cheesy. Obviously, this is before Neil joined the band, and Geddy's songwriting. There's some tracks where his songwriting is really good. There are times where it gets cheesy. In the Mood's lyrics are pretty cheesy, and this is not to be confused with the Glenn Miller Orchestra classic big band song In the Mood, which is iconic. But anyway, I love the whole first album. I could have mentioned everything, but it is a great song. Or a great album. From Fly By Night, and like I mentioned, I'm a big fan of Fly By Night's Anthem. It pained me to leave Anthem out. I love Anthem. That is one of their best album openers, and what a way to open up. You have a new member in the band. You says, "Hi, my name's Neil. I'm just going to show you I'm going to kick ass." And then they open with Anthem, which is one of their best album openers and one of the best album openers of all time. I love Anthem. It's a great heavy song. Best I Can, another really heavy song. I love the heavy riff in the song. And another fast-paced tempo song. I love that. Beneath, Between, and Behind, another great song, and the lyrics are really great too. And I remember watching that Rush documentary, Beyond the Light Stage. If you haven't watched that documentary, and if you're a huge Rush fan, I highly recommend it. It's one of my favorite. I've seen a lot of great music documentaries. That's one of my favorites. Not just because they're one of my favorite bands of all time, but it's a great watch nonetheless. But Beneath, Between, and Behind, I remember Geddy saying it's really difficult to sing the lyrics. Some of the stuff Neil wrote, because the lyrics are very the lyrics are very was expansive, I guess, because Neil read a lot of books, and that's why he was a lyricist. But Beneath, Between, and Behind is great. I love Bytor and the Snow Dog. That's really what got them. That's kind of their first progressive song, because the first album didn't really have any progressive moments. It was more heavy and more rock. But I think Bytor and the Snow Dog really is their first progressive song, and really, because Neil uses wind chimes, and it's divided into four or maybe even more sections. Well, I think it's four sections. One of them has mini sections or subsections. But yeah, Bytor and the Snow Dog is awesome. I love that. Making Memories is great. Rivendell and In the End is another great song. From Caress of Steel, I felt bad not including anything from Caress of Steel because I really like that album a lot. Bastille Day. We were talking about how Anthem was a great album opener. Bastille Day kills. It is awesome. I think I'm going bald. As silly as it is, I always really enjoyed that. Not one of their best songs, I agree, but I had to include it here. Lakeside Park, another great song, and great lyrics of how. I guess that's one of their more nostalgic songs, especially for them, because they all grew up in Canada, and that's really them growing up around Lakeside Park, and yeah, great lyrics and a great song. The Necromancer. That's a song I always liked, but it has grown to be one of my favorites. That might be my favorite track off that album, along with Bastille Day. And the Fountain of Lamneth. I like the Fountain of Lamneth quite a bit, but that's a song that I loved early on, getting into Rush, and I think as the years and months have gone by, I've liked it a little bit less, but I still like it, and that's one reason why this album wasn't critically acclaimed. But I'm a big Caress of Steel fan nonetheless. From 2112, A Passage to Bangkok. That's another great song. Side two of 2112 is really great. Side one obviously is legendary. It's only one song, but it's great. But side two is great. So Passage to Bangkok, Twilight Zone. That's another great song, and that's a song about the famous classic TV show. Lessons is another good song. A rare Alex Lifeson written track. He didn't do a lot of those. I wonder why. Well, I know why. Neil wrote most of the songs, and Geddy wrote only a couple. And one Geddy track that was written by him included on this album is Tears, another really nice track. And the album closer, Something for Nothing, is phenomenal. I love everything about that, and I had to include it on here. That sits outside my top 10, along with Anthem and Bytor and the Snow Dog and Bastille Day, Necromancer, and more 80s stuff too. From A Farewell to Kings, the title track of Farewell to Kings is awesome. I love that. Even though it's silly, I love Cinderella Man. It's a silly song, but I love it a lot. Same thing with Madrigal. Madrigal is another really good song I like. And I love Cygnus X1 Book 1 The Voyage, which ends the album on a cliffhanger and opens up with the next album, Hemispheres. And I love how progressive the song is, but I love Geddy's high-pitched vocal. That's probably the highest note he's ever hit. You can hear him scream at the end. Whenever I hear that, I laugh because not to make fun of him, but I just laugh because it's like how can someone hit that high? It's like even how can a guy sing that high? Even if you're an adult, how can you sing that high? You must have practiced, I guess. But anyway, from Hemisphere, Cygnus X1 Book 2 Hemispheres, another great song. I don't know which one I like more, The Voyage or Hemispheres. I always compare them together because they're both classics. Circumstances is another great song. And The Trees. The Trees, along with Xanadu, I think is one of their more experimental tunes. That's another great song. From Permanent Waves, The Spirit of Radio. That was in my top 10 and got booted out. That might be my number 11. I love Spirit of Radio. That's such a great song. Great way to open up the album, and I love Alex Lifeson's guitar riff in the song. Free Will also was in my top 10 and got booted out. That's probably next to Spirit of Radio. If it's not number 11, it's number 12. It's easily in the top 15. If I were to make top 20 list, those two are easily on there. And the guitar solo from Alex... Okay, so Free Will has a phenomenal guitar solo from Alex Lifeson. That's one of his best performances, along with La Villa Strangiato and Xanadu. Those are probably my three favorite guitar solos. So it would probably be Free Will, Xanadu, and La Villa Strangiato. That's at least the order I would say. Jacob's Ladder, another great one, and great guitar solo in that song too. I think this is one of his best albums guitar wise. I think for Alex. And yeah, Jacob's Ladder is perfect. That's a song that I always really like, but I've grown to love it, and it may appear in my top 10 one day. Who knows? I love Jacob's Ladder. Entre Nous. Entre Nous is a great song. I love the lyrics are very good. They're kind of depressing, but musically the song is great, and Different Strings is a great song too. And for Moving Pictures, I included everything else because it's a perfect album for me. Red Barchetta, another song that was in my top 10 and got booted out. For me, Red Barchetta is and that's the only song from side one that wasn't included in my top 10, and it pained me to leave it out because yeah, I honestly okay, I'm going to be honest with you. I kind of planned to have every song from side one in my top 10. I know it couldn't. I know it wouldn't have been possible, but I got three out of the four from side one. But anyway, hey, maybe Red Barchetta will appear in my top 10 one day. The Camera Eye is great. Side two is underrated. Witch Hunt, which is part three of the Fear saga they did. Witch Hunt is great. And Vital Signs is phenomenal. I love Vital Signs. I love and that's a song that I always really liked, but I've grown to love it even more. I love Geddy's vocals in the song. All right, so we're going into their synth era. So from Signals. Signals is a great album. I love Signals. Subdivisions. You got to mention Subdivisions. That's along with Tom Sawyer and Spirit of Radio and Limelight and maybe Red Barchetta. One of their more airplay tunes, but it's still a great song nonetheless. The Analog Kid is great. Chemistry. Digital Man. Okay, this was around the time where they loved the Police, the band The Police, and Digital Man is really reggae influenced, and the Police they were influenced by a lot of reggae, and they incorporated that into a lot of their music. And Digital Man is just a great song. That's kind of their most Police fandom song, I guess. The Weapon, Part 2 of Fear, that's another great song. I don't know why they went back, so they went from Part 3 to Part 2 to Part 1 in their albums, and then eventually Part 4. But hey, maybe they were comical like that. But The Weapon is great. New World Man, another song I really wanted in my top 10. Losing It is a great song, and Countdown. From Grace Under Pressure. Grace Under Pressure is another great album. I always put Signals, Grace Under Pressure, and Power Windows together because I think they're really great. And I think out of the three, I think Signals might be my favorite. But I think the best. There's a difference between favorite and best. Best maybe Grace Under Pressure for me anyway. I love them, all three of them. But for Grace Under Pressure, Distant Early Warning, another song that was in my top 10 and got booted out. I love Distant Early Warning. That's a great song. That's easily top 15 probably. I love that song. That honestly might be my favorite synth rush song. I love that. Tied with another one down the line. After Image. After Image is another great song with really depressing lyrics. That song was about their friend who had to do with them, and he passed away in a motorcycle accident, and he was young too. I don't remember how old he was, but yeah, there was one of their friends that died in a motorcycle accident, and they put this song out for them. Red Sector A. And when I was getting into Rush, I didn't realize how dark this song was. I love the music in the song. I didn't pay a lot of attention to the lyrics, but then paying attention to the lyrics, this song... For Red Sector A is their most dark song in my opinion. So if you don't know what the song's about, it's about Geddy's parents, their experiences through Nazi concentration camps in World War II, because they were both in Auschwitz, which was the worst of the worst. And I believe Geddy's father was sent to Dachau, and Geddy's mom was sent to Bergen-Belsen. All three of those camps were just terrible. A lot a lot of chaos and a lot of terror happened in them. And I remember reading an article where Geddy said, I think he said, I just got off of the phone with my mom, and she thought that liberation was not possible. She believed that society didn't exist outside of the camp. So she thought that she was going to die at a very young age, which is scary. Which is just scary and horrible to think, but yeah, Red Sector A, as dark as it is, it's a perfect song, and I'm gonna think of Getty's parents and all the 6 million innocent people that have been killed in the Holocaust. I will think about each one of them and Holocaust survivors to this day. I will think about them from the song because it represents what the hell that Jews went through back in those days. But anyway, I didn't want to go through a dark subject, but Red Sector A is a great song. It is dark, but I love it a lot. The Enemy Within, Part 1 of Fear, that's another great song. Maybe my favorite of the Fear saga. I love Geddy's bass in the song. It's great. The Body Electric is great. Kid Gloves, Red Lenses, Between the Wheels. A song that kind of sounds like Spirits in the Material World from the Police. Again, they were in their Police phase, and they still love them to this day. Well, I think, obviously Neil's gone, but he was a big fan of Stuart Copeland's drumming, and, who isn't? Stuart Copeland, one of the greatest drummers of all time. But anyway, I see the video's getting long, so I have to speed up. So from Power Windows, The Big Money, another song I love a lot. Grand Designs, Manhattan Project, Marathon, another great song. Territories, Middletown Dreams, Emotion Detector, Mystic Rhythms, another great song. From Hold Your Fire, and I think back in the day I said Hold Your Fire was my least favorite Rush album. I think I've grown to like that album a lot more. Force 10 is a great song. Time Stands Still, probably my favorite Rush 80s synth song. That's easily in my top 15. I love that. Open Secrets is great. Second Nature, Prime Mover, Lock and Key, another song that I always really liked, but I've grown to love it ever since. And Mission is another great song. From Presto honestly might be my least favorite Rush album. I still like it quite a bit. Show Don't Tell is fantastic. Chain Lightning, The Pass is another great song. Another depressing song lyric-wise, but it's great. War Paint, Presto, the title track's great. Superconductor, that one gets quite a bit of heat from some Rush fans, but I always like it. Anagram for Mongo, that's a parody of Candygram for Mongo from Blazing Saddles, a movie, one of the best movies of all time. From Mel Brooks, who is a genius. But Anagram for Mongo is great. Red Tide and Hand Over Fist. From Roll the Bones. Roll the Bones is an album that I actually like quite a bit. I think it's overlooked, and when people think of Rush, they think of that as one of their weaker ones. I can kind of understand, but I always liked it. Dreamline is spectacular. Maybe my favorite 90s Rush song. Okay, we're getting into the 90s, although there's another one down the line. Bravado is great too. I always kind of like the title track. I know, musically, it's really good. However, when we get to the rap section, Neil Peart wrote the rap, Geddy sang it, no, I'm sorry, Geddy rapped, he rapped, and, they were thinking, if you got someone from, Beastie Boys, or Run DMC, or Public Enemy, or De La Soul, you could have gotten some of those, that would have been that actually would have made the song work. However, they were another funny thing. They were thinking of getting John Cleese from Monty Python to rap on this song. I'm a big Monty Python fan. I honestly would love to hear that, but I'm glad it didn't turn out because that'll probably be considered as one of the weakest Rush songs. And as a whole, it is one of their weaker tunes for most people, but I still like it. Face Up is great. Where's My Thing is great, which is Part 4 Gangster of Boats trilogy. I don't know what the hell that is, but Where's My Thing is great, and Ghost of a Chance is great. I think that might be even better live. From Counterparts, Animate. Along with Dreamline, Animate, probably my favorite 90s Rush song. I love Animate. Stick It Out is great. Nobody's Hero, another great song, another depressing song lyric-wise, and Leave That Thing Alone. Counterparts is a really strong album. I like that album a lot. From Test for Echo is another really good album. The title track, Test for Echo, Driven, another great song, another one of my favorite 90s Rush songs. Half the World is also great. Time and Motion is a favorite of mine. I know this song gets a lot of flack, but I always liked it. Virtuality. yeah, maybe cheesy lyrics, net boy, net girl, send your impulse around the world, put your message in a modem and throw it into cyber sea. I always liked it. Musically, it's really good, but I always liked it. And Resist is another really beautiful song. From Vapor Trails, after Neil Peart's tragedy, after they were on sabbatical, Neil Peart lost his daughter from a car accident on her first day of college. She was driving up there and she died in the car accident. And then a couple months later, just in 1 year, um, Neil Peart lost his wife Jackie to cancer, and then he went on this long motorcycle trip that went from I'm just going to say it short, from Canada to Mexico. That's how long he went down all the way. He went down. He went from Canada. He went up the Arctic, back to he went through Alaska, down the west, okay, down to California, and then into Mexico, into Belize, which is a long drive. I don't know how he did it, but he said, but it must have been really long. But Vapor Trails for me is a great album. And then after sabbatical, they went back to recording music. So from Vapor Trails, One Little Victory. One Little Victory is a great song. Ghost Rider, another great song. That was the title of Neil Peart's book, which talked about his tragedy that hit him. Vapor Trail, the title track is great. Secret Touch is a great song. Earthshine, Sweet Miracle, Freeze, Part 4 of Fear. Why they went to Part 4 after Part 1, I have no idea. They did a lot of that stuff. And Out of the Cradle is great. Alright, I included some stuff from the EP Feedback, which if you include that in their discography, that's easily my least favorite, but there's still some good tracks. Summertime Blues, it's an EP of covers. Summertime Blues are a cover of, well, it's a covered by many, but I think this is specifically from The Who. Well, actually, I don't know. I don't know, but they were all big Who fans, and Summertime Blues is great. Heartful of Soul, The Seeker, that's a great Who cover, and Crossroads. From Snakes and Arrows, that's another really strong album. Far Cry, one of my favorite latter-day Rush songs, is another great one. Armor and Sword is great. Working the Angels, The Main Monkey Business, Hope, Faithless is another great one. Good News First, and Malignant Narcissism. And from their final album, Clockwork Angels, I'm a big fan of Clockwork Angels. That's one of their best final albums of all time, I think. And it's just great. So from Clockwork Angels, Caravan, a fantastic song. Clockwork Angels, I love the title track. The Anarchist is great. The Wreckers, I love Geddy's vocals in the song. Headlong Flight is fantastic. I love that drum solo from Neil in the song. It's great. Wish Them Well is great. And a beautiful track to end the album, The Garden. And it's kind of sad thinking about that's the last song off their last album. And it kind of sounds like they're saying goodbye. But this was before Neil Peart was diagnosed with brain cancer, and they toured for a couple of years, and then Neil retired, and then they retired. And that was right at the time where I was getting into Rush. I got into Rush right before they retired, which is kind of sad for me, but, little did we know that Neil was battling brain cancer, sadly. But yeah, that's my honorable mentions. I will show you my list one more time, my top 10 favorite Rush songs. Let me know what your favorite Rush songs are in the comments below. I'm going to end this video now because I went on way too long, but I need to try not to go long anymore, but it's a habit that I can't control. But anyway, let me know what more top 10 songs shows you want me to do. I can think of many to do. I mentioned that Pink Floyd's another one of my favorite bands. I might do them one day. I can do Led Zeppelin one day. Just let me know what you would like me to do. Van Halen, maybe. Queen, another one. The Police, like I mentioned before. But I don't know. Dream Theater, like I mentioned before. Anyway, I'm going to let you guys decide which one would you like me to do next. Or which ones would you like me to do in the future, rather. Because I think I have a feeling what I would like to do next for this show. But anyway, I'm going to end the video here because it's going on too long. Rest in peace to Mary Weinrib and Neil Peart. My condolences go to Geddy's family. My condolences go to Geddy and his family, and they're going through grief, and yeah, I hope they just stay strong through this tough time that they're having, and we'll always remember her. And she had a tough life in the beginning of her life, but she had a life of happiness at near the end and until the end after her horrible past and the tragedy she had to go through, and her husband. And yeah, it's really sad that she's gone, and almost a lot of them that we lost are gone. But anyway, I'll try not to go through any dark subjects anymore. So, Mary, rest in peace, and Neil, rest in peace. So, please leave a like, comment if you want, view my videos, and of course subscribe, and ring the bell for daily notifications. Thank you for watching this video, guys. This has been Halbuska, signing off. Stay safe, take care.